You know that feeling, right? You ask an AI a question, and it gives you this answer that sounds so smart, so confident, but it turns out to be completely, totally wrong. Well, that little phenomenon has a name. It's called a hallucination. And it's not just some quirky bug in the system. Honestly, it's one of the single biggest things holding AI back from really changing the way we all work. So let's get into it. What is actually going on here?
All right, so right now we are smack in the middle of this huge AI investment boom. I mean, it feels like every single company on the planet is racing to get this tech. But if you look just a little closer, you start to see this really strange paradox at the heart of the whole AI revolution.
Get this. Investment banks are projecting that companies are going to spend a jaw-dropping $375 billion on AI infrastructure, just this year alone. That is a massive industry-wide bet on the future. But is anyone actually using it?
Well, here's the other side of that coin. Despite all that cash being thrown around, data from Goldman Sachs shows that real corporate adoption of generative AI is sitting at just 9.7%, and it's not exactly skyrocketing. So you've got this huge gap between companies buying the tech and people actually trusting it enough to use it day to day.
It really just boils down to one simple word: trust. I mean, think about it. How can you really, truly rely on a tool that sometimes just makes things up? This is the fundamental problem, and it's exactly why so many businesses are being so cautious.
So when an AI just confidently lies to you, there's a technical term for it: hallucination. And as we're about to see, the consequences of these, well, they can be incredibly serious.
The really key thing to understand here isn't just that the information is wrong, it's that it's delivered with this absolute, unshakable confidence. And that's what makes these things so dangerous. They sound so convincing that it's almost impossible to spot the lie unless you're already an expert or you double-check every single thing. And this isn't some theoretical problem. This quote is from a real story. Two lawyers actually used ChatGPT for legal research, and they ended up citing six completely made up, non-existent court cases in an official legal filing. That is exactly the kind of high-stakes mistake that makes businesses terrified to let this technology in the door.
And that lawyer story? It's not a one-off. A law professor was falsely accused of sexual harassment, and the AI just invented a fake Washington Post article as its source. An Australian mayor was wrongly labeled as being part of a bribery scandal, when in reality, he was the one who exposed it. And then there was a company chatbot that just made up a fake policy on the spot. You can just imagine the reputational damage. It can be massive.
Okay, so why on earth does this keep happening? The answer isn't just some simple bug you can patch. It's actually woven into the very fabric of how these AI models are designed and, maybe more importantly, what we're actually rewarding them for doing. So the first thing you have to wrap your head around is that an AI doesn't think the way we do. At its core, it's a pattern-matching machine. It has devoured unimaginable amounts of text from the internet, and its entire job is to predict the next most statistically probable word in a sentence. It's not trying to be accurate. It's just trying to be plausible. Right, so the model has absolutely no concept of truth. It isn't trying to give you facts. One article I read put it perfectly. Think of it less like a reliable coworker and more like a smooth-talking guesser that really, really cares about sounding good, way more than it cares about being right. And this creates this huge incentive problem. Research from OpenAI points this out beautifully. We're essentially training these models like students taking a multiple-choice test where there's no penalty for guessing. So what do they learn? They learn that a confident, plausible-sounding answer, even if it's a complete bluff, is way better than just being quiet. So which of these two AIs are we actually rewarding? The one on the left, that might just confidently make something up? Or the one on the right, that's honest and says, you know what, I don't know? Well, right now, our training systems are actively encouraging the bluff. Honesty gets you 0 points, while a good-sounding guess often gets you partial credit.
So how do we fix this mess? The good news is, researchers actually have a pretty clear path forward. Yeah, there's no single silver bullet here. The solution is really a two-pronged attack. First, yeah, we need better technology. But just as importantly, we need to completely change the rules of the game for how we grade these AIs.
So, the path to a more trustworthy AI has two really key steps. First, we have to ground the AI in reality.
There's this technique called retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, which basically gives the AI a library of verified facts to check against, so it looks things up instead of just guessing. And second, we have to change the test. We need to redesign our evaluations to actually reward the AI for saying it's not sure. We have to teach it that "I don't know" is a much, much better answer than a confident lie.
And when we start to combine these solutions, we can really start to see a future where AI moves beyond what it is today and becomes a partner we can actually rely on.
At the end of the day, this is the goal, right? By fixing the way we test them and by grounding the tech in actual facts, we can finally close that big adoption gap we talked about. We can transform AI from this brilliant but kind of unreliable guesser into a tool that helps us out with real accuracy and integrity. And that really brings us to the final question. The challenge here isn't just about code or data. It's about teaching our most advanced technology a really fundamentally human trait, the wisdom to admit when it just doesn't have the answer. And if we can pull that off, well, we might just unlock the true potential of AI after all.